Come on, men of God, I need you to, we have a short period of time and a short window with you tonight. I am honored for you to be here because I need you now to be engaged. I need the band did an amazing job, Minister Kenny, all of them, right? Come on, man. Somebody say, wake up. Wake up. All right. If I catch any of you all sleeping, remember, I used to hit people for a living. So make sure, man, stay awake. Good evening. Come on, give me some feedback. Good evening. Good evening. Man, I had just a word that God put in my heart to share with all of us. And I'm starting out, just jump right off the gate and tell you straight up that the title today is self-deception. Self-deception. It's probably the greatest enemy to mankind. And I'm talking about men and women. One of the biggest challenges is self-deception. And the interesting thing about self-deception, it's not easily detected. And self-deception has a way of thinking that we're something when we're not. And so one of the most important things that I can add to your life and add to my own, because there have been areas in my life I've been self-deceived. And we're finishing out, Brother Rio mentioned earlier, we in November 1st, we have literally 2 months left in a year. Anybody remember what our theme is this year? The year of the door. What is it? Year of the door. The year of the what? Door. Can't hear you. Door. So I don't know where you came from. I don't know what's been happening in your life. You didn't come here to hear a performance. We're not here to sugarcoat you. You're in a locker room. There's no ladies here. Any ladies that's listening live stream, I'm telling you right now, your device is going to self-destruct in a second as soon as I start teaching, all right? I'm telling you that right now, I'm warning you. But for all of you all here, all I could tell you is every one of us are in this man suit. So that means we have similar challenges and nothing new. So in this title of deception, I need you to understand first, let's define it. Could you put the definition of deception up, please? Self-deception, could you put that on the screen real quick? There it is. To believe something that is not true. Somebody say to believe something that's not true. Typically, in order to gain some personal advantage. Everybody say deception. Deception, there it is. To believe something that's what? Not true. Everybody got it? To believe something that's what? How much self-deception or how much deception is going on with this virus? And you have people listening to people who are just ignorant. People who've never done any of the research. You know, I can relate to some of y'all because some of y'all watch football games. And you're ready, your team lose, and you're ready to bring a playbook to the coach. Man, coach, I got this. You done drew up this play, just don't know nothing what you're talking about. And then you say crazy stuff like, I play Little League football. Somebody say that's self-deception. So one of the things that I would like to do is to bring reality. Reality to the fact that you and I were born what's called sinners. Everybody say reality. Now, one of the things is self-deception. If you're sitting here and you're thinking that you were not born a sinner, you self-deceive. And all I know is this. Nobody taught me how to do wrong. How about you? Come on, guys. Give me some feedback. Come on, little guy. Anybody taught you how to do wrong? Nobody taught me how to lie. Anybody? It seemed to come real easy. And nobody taught me not to get along with my brother. We would fight all the time. Anybody can relate to that? Come on, give me some feedback, guys. Anybody can relate to that? Nobody taught me to cheat on the driver's test. Seriously, I cheated on the driver's test. Seriously, growing up in New Orleans, they literally had 3 different versions of it. And somebody in my high school got a copy of all the answers. So I literally went into the driving test with the 3 lines, and just all I had to do is identify which test it was. Test number 2 had my little cheat sheet. Nobody taught me that. And I grew up with amazing parents who held you accountable. So don't tell me deception is not inborn. And it's easy to do. Deception is so I can be seated in here right now, going to church all the time, and thinking that I'm actually doing what God says. It's the craziest thing. And you know the other thing about self-deception? At least if somebody else deceived you, they caught you not paying attention. But you can catch them. But do you know how much harder it is to catch yourself? Did y'all hear what I just said? Do you know some of us think we good husbands? But if we stand and put your wife on the stand and ask her a few questions, how y'all really doing? How many of you all may ask your wife, please plead the fifth? Right? What's the best way to know if your wife happy? What's the best way to know?
Ask her.
Say it again.
Ask her.
To do what?
Ask her.
Ask her. Self-deceive. There are people that stand up here. Self-deceive. In other words, start preaching from the Bible and teach it as if they got it all together. Somebody say self-deceive. One of the most important things that Jesus did, he came in a physical body. And it says he was tempted in all parts like us, yet he didn't sin. He didn't what? All the rest of us? Oh, yeah. Everybody got that? So the first place I got to get you is to off your high horse. Well, I got a degree. I went to school. I live in I have a great education. My family, everybody's doing great. So you and I have the thought and think that we all that and what they call a bag of chips. But we could be self what? How many guys that I work out with that said they were cornerbacks? You'd be surprised how many guys I worked out with, hundreds of them, and they thought they were cornerbacks until they went out there. And you know the awesome thing about playing in the National Football League? Every day is a test. Even in practice, and they film everything. Some of y'all go to the gym, got your LeBron tennis shoes on, right? Even some of y'all, growing up, you were the type, you couldn't play a lick, but you'd bring the basketball so we had to play you. Somebody say self-deception right now, right? Your mom and dad knew you couldn't play a lick, so they said, the way to get my kid on the court at a rail park in New Orleans, we're going to buy you a brand new ball. So when you get there, they're going to pick you because you have the ball. And if we mess with you, guess what you're going to do? If we don't pick you, you're going to take your ball and go home. Somebody say self-deceive. So I just want to, before I hit the scriptures, I want to really get us all to agree. Because the first thing, you cannot solve a problem you don't know you have. Every one of us have the potential to be self-deceived. How many? Can't hear you. And if you're sitting here thinking you can't, you already know you're self-deceived. Look at somebody right now, wherever you are, turn right around, because somebody looking here like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Look at him right now and say, is he talking to you? Right now. Some of y'all didn't look at anybody. You're disobedient right now. Tell them, I said, look at somebody and say, is he talking to you? Come on. I can almost cry on this one because it's a tough one. Because you don't see it. I see it in church all the time. The one thing I get on my knees and thank God for, y'all want to know what it is? Self-awareness. The ability to look outside myself and see the real me and don't fool myself. Boy, this is a nice one here, boy. I should get a praise break in here. Did y'all hear what I just said? You'll be surprised how many people don't have self-awareness. The ability to see the clown they are. Come on. What's your name? What is it? That's you, Jeremiah? Look like you done grew up almost 7 feet now? Jeremiah, you know God got you, right? So what I'm doing right now, this is in the moment of me teaching, the Spirit of God is instructing me to say something to a young man. His name is Jeremiah, right? And Jeremiah needs to know that you the real deal. You don't have to try to be anybody else. Your value is in your difference, not your sameness. I told you guys, you've heard me say this before. When you're growing up and you're in your formative years, you're a freshman, right? When you're in your formative years, like these guys, some of the young guys that I see, your biggest challenge is going to be social media now. You have everything in front of you. And your biggest challenge is going to be you loving who God has created you to be. I'm telling you, man, you mess around with the devil in the world, you'll hate yourself. I remember, I told you guys this, man, they said I had a big nose. Then they said, then I had, some of y'all may not know, I think it grew out. I had a dip in my head. True story. And then they said I had big feet. True story. That's what they tell you. Kids are brutal. You know who else brutal? Christians. Christians are brutal. Brother Kenny just came back. Some of y'all, Minister Kenny, just came back. Do you know some Christians went up to him? Because he and Maxine, the Lord took him down to Texas for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months. And now God brought him back. You know somebody walked up to him and said, prodigal son. Just crazy. Here's the first big point. Y'all ready? Think before you talk. I'm going to say it again. What do you say? I'm telling you, this stuff not deep, man. Think before you say something. I'm going to say it again. Think before you open his mouth. You'll be surprised how you can change the atmosphere with wrong words. It says it'd be better to close your mouth and be thought a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. Before you put that up, look at the second definition. To ensnare. Now this caught me. Deception is to ensnare in a literal sense of trapping someone or an animal. Y'all see it? Ensnare in a literal sense of trapping someone or an animal. So literally, self-deception is me trapping who? Myself. Everybody got it? 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. Would you put that on the video board, please? There it is. Everybody see this? Let what? No man do what? Deceive his what? Himself. If any man among you seem to be wise in this world, let him become a what? Fool, that they may become wise. That sounds like an oxymoron. He's telling me if I'm wise in this world, I need to become a fool so I can learn the wisdom of God. Because you don't understand the wisdom of God until you recognize how foolish you and I are. Somebody, can I get an amen on that one? Come on, give me some feedback. What are some foolish things you thought prior to becoming wise with God? Anybody? Some foolish things. Anybody? You thought you were good. In other words, you're pretty good. I'm a good dude, right? Right. And then the awesome thing is other people think we good. And they say something like, that's a good brother. Now, they don't hang out with us. Right? You got to be careful testifying about people. I'll get somebody to say, hey, give me a recommendation. Call a scout for me. I say, hey, man, I've never seen you. Send me some film or matter of fact, come work out with me. So I can see what I got here. I've been fooled before. I remember, true story. Everybody say self-deception. I had a friend, mentee, 4 years younger than me. He was a black college All-American, Defensive Player of the Year. True story. Mentee. He asked me, he didn't get an opportunity. He had some bad habits, and he didn't get an opportunity after leaving Southern University to go to the league. So he reached out to me and said, hey, can you reach out to one of the coaches for me? And I did. I just need an opportunity. So I called the coach. True story. I called Coach Levy. He was in Chicago. And I said, yeah, coach, love it, man. And this is when these are the lessons you learn to not ever, ever, ever just take people's word for it. Some of y'all haven't learned that yet. Don't ever, God taught the Jewish people, the Hebrew people in the Old Testament, Jews in the New, Greek, he taught them to verify everything. Too many of us are self-deceived because we don't go do our homework. How many have been self-deceived about this virus? They're not listening to Dr. Siddiqui or Dr. Williams. They're listening to Uncle Leroy. And the crazy thing, they will quote Uncle Leroy as if Uncle Leroy Dr. Siddiqui. It's the craziest thing. I had a cousin. I'll get back to my friend in a second. I had a cousin. I went home about 6 months ago. He was working security outside of Houston's restaurant. When I saw him, man, he jumped on me like a junkyard dog. He said, you haven't gotten that vaccine, have you? Now, he about 50 pounds overweight, right? But that don't matter. I'm just giving you a description, right? He got at least 2 or 3 teeth missing. But that still don't mean anything. I'm just kind of describing to you. That's just outward. It don't mean anything. He could have had all the wisdom in the world. Could have been God talking to him. I'm just telling you, but how you look does matter. So, like, it's a good idea if you having marital problems to find somebody who not. Everybody got it? It doesn't mean somebody who's had marital problems can't help you. So this cousin is telling me all of this. He's been on Facebook. He's been looking at every video. Man, you would have thought this guy he was a doctor. And then I began to ask him, how your kids? Well, they ain't doing too well, man. I said, man, all that studying you doing, why don't you study to help your kids? I said, because it's obvious you study. It's obvious you look at stuff. I say, man, take all of what you just told me, all that energy, and use it for your family. There are foreign governments injecting information on these social media platforms. It's the craziest thing. You have to verify things, and then you got God's Spirit. So we're not just limited by based on what we even read and see. We can read it, look at it, do our homework, but also God's Spirit will give you a nudge as to what to do. I did all my homework, but God gave me a nudge to support, making sure I get out and encourage people to get vaccinated. And I didn't get vaccinated necessarily just for me. I got it vaccinated, which is the hallmark of the believer, is to love your neighbor. That's the hallmark of Christianity. It's not worried about just you. I wanted my parents who were in the house since COVID hit, I wanted to be able to go there with my children and my family to see them. So I got vaccinated not just for myself and for all the members who come here. It's not about you once you get saved. And if you and I still living as if it's only about us, that's called self what? Deception. Come on, somebody shout to me, I will not be deceived. I will not be deceived. He said, let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seem to be wise in this world, let him become a what? Fool, that he may be what? Wise. Because what he's saying is, if you think you're wise and you think you're smarter than God before you meet him, before you get to know him, before you get saved, you got to divorce yourself of how smart you are in this world. Think about how smart we are in this world, how intelligent we are, yet we're voting on a debt ceiling in this country. I don't know if y'all understand what that means. That means we broke. Y'all do know that, right? Oh, yeah. Every day. And then I was reading something else that said, we've never, ever not paid our bills. Talking about the country. And then everybody say self-deception. Self-deception. The biggest self-deception in the United States is us pointing the blame at the elected officials. When our government is a government for the people, by the people. So mostly what we seeing is what's happening in our houses. Some of y'all, you yelling at Trump, you yelling at Biden, you won't fight everybody. And heaven balance the budget in your own house. Come on. James chapter 1, verse 22, please. James chapter 1, verse 22. Everybody say, no more deception. No more deception. One more time. No more deception. Mr. Gill, would you come up? Would you get Mr. Gill a mic, please? Thank you so much. Here we go. This is our theme verse for the year. Be ye doers of the what? Do what? Doers. I can't hear you. Doers. Be ye what? Doers. I can't hear you. Doers. Say it again. Doers. Be ye what? Doers. Do what it says. Yes, sir. You know the best time to do what it says? Right now. As soon as you hear it. As soon as you hear it. Right now, God wants some of y'all to forgive people because he knows if you're a believer and you're not forgiving people, Satan has access to you. So what God will do is put on your heart to call somebody who you don't want called and you don't feel like calling. And you don't realize as a believer, if you don't forgive from the heart those who've offended you, you cannot be forgiven. And that Satan has legal access to not only destroy you, destroy your whole household. So you can be going through a whole lot and ignore this basic tenet of the Christian faith to forgive people because God forgives us. And literally, you will be ensnared in your entire family of be going through all kind of unnecessary heartache because you've not done what the word says, which is to forgive a person. It doesn't mean you still trust them. Trust is different from forgiveness. Everybody got that? It says, be doers of the word and not what? Hearers only, deceiving your what? Own selves. So going into my 4th year with the league, in the league, and some of you have heard Gill, I want to say Mr. Byrd, because that's what I said to him when I first met him. So Gill was how many years ahead of me? Playing with the San Diego Chargers, cornerback, at least 4. He's trying to stay young. At least 4. We're going to keep it conservative 4. I'm asking him to come up because it says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the what? Word of our testimony. But you also get inspired and we're required to be examples to other people. Amen. So there's truth that's getting ready to come out of Mr. Gill as relates to steps that God taught me to take in order to become the Pro Football Hall of Famer that God blessed him to become. I'm saying this because so many, God has a plan for your life, but you won't take the steps to get there. So internally, you will still have a fire that's unsatisfied because you won't take the steps in order to do the things to get in position to do what God has created you to do and be. One of the things you see on this, my Hall of Fame speech, over millions saw it on TV and had about 40,000, 30,000 in the stands. I wanted them to remember 2 things. Begin with the end in mind and die empty. 2 things. Do what? Begin with the end in mind and do what? Die empty. I want you to make note of this. I want every one of you to spend time, ask God, God, what's your purpose for my life? What am I supposed to do with my life? And then I want you to sit down and write it down. I want you to write it down in detail. There are a couple of things I've done. I've written things down in detail. I've already written it down in detail. We're very crystal clear. I've written it in detail. I've also written my funeral eulogy. Because, and the Bible also says, go to funerals. Because they cause you to think about the finite time we have here. Because some of us, and as humans, it's easy to waste time. We're not here that long, guys. And you got a window to do what God has called you to do. So I wrote down, believe it or not, true story, years before I met Mr. Byrd. I wrote down, I want to be one of the best cornerbacks to ever play the game. And the Spirit of God put that in my heart. Now, you're talking about a guy, it was highly unlikely that this was going to happen. And I wrote it down at a time it made no sense. Somebody say no sense. God is not limited by your sense. I hope you understand that. If your marriage jacked up, he's not limited because your marriage jacked up. He has the ability to change that thing and change you. But you got to believe this. So I wrote down, one of the crazy things I wrote down, I want to lead my team to the Super Bowl. And I've said this before. Did y'all hear what I just said? What did I say? Say it again. And I did, but we lost. I was supposed to write, I'm going to win the Super Bowl. Some of you all think, man, there's no way, I don't believe that. I understand. It's not an accident that Jesus' quote was written. You'd be surprised how legal in the Spirit what's written is. And do you know if you'll write down what you desire and what he's put in your heart, you can't look at Mr. Gill and look at Pastor Aeneas and then go try to say, well, I want to be like them, and then write it down. That may not be your purpose. But if you'll get with God and allow him to cause you to write down what he's called you to do and what you're capable of doing and be very detailed with it and then put it up, you'll be surprised how somebody always asks me, what was it like catching 2 interceptions in a divisional round playoffs with the Green Bay Packers? Oh, I say, man, it was just like my notes and my goals, and it was just like practice. I'd already seen it before. So I'm going into my 4th year. I'd already been voted Defensive Rookie of the Year. I had already tied the league conference record with 6 interceptions, I think, my rookie year. So I make all rookie team and NFL PA Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then the next 2 years were decent. And then I started hearing a guy by the coach by the name of Bobby Jackson, who was on the Cardinals coaching staff, who was with the Chargers before he came to us, and he kept telling me about Gill Byrd. Here's another big point. So many people, self-deception is when you don't think you need help. Like, if your marriage not going well, you probably need some help. If you're sick, hopefully you're going to go to a doctor and get some what? Help. Did you know the Bible said Jesus, our God, is a very present help in time of trouble? But a lot of people go to him as a last resort. So I was a decent corner. I'm seeing Gill. Gill's leading the league in interceptions. He's this corner. All week, there was a guy named Randall Hill who was on the Cardinals team. Randall was an Olympic speedster, kind of like Terry Hill, the guy in Kansas City. And Randall was the fastest guy, first-round draft pick on the Cardinals team with me. And, man, we were getting ready to play the San Diego Chargers. How fast were you, Gill? Hold your mic up. Hold your mic up.
4.6 on a good day.
So Gill was a 4.6 corner. I'm telling y'all, some of y'all don't know anything about football. Yeah. A 4.6 40 at the cornerback position is rare. So Randall is like 4.2 40. So in the practice, Randall is licking his chops. I mean, he just talking. He said, man, I can't wait. That old slow turkey. I can't wait till I see him. And in practice, they running all deep routes. All deep routes. And Randall he catching the balls. He can't wait to play Gill. And so I had already been hearing about Gill as a believer, his testimony off the field, as well as on the field. So Randall, we finally played the Chargers. Gill lines up. Most of your coverage was off man with him. You could describe it.
Well, a lot of it was press during that time. But because we played so many different defenses, I wanted to play a mind game. You didn't know I was waiting to play him too.
Right.
I
No, I
enjoy
know
playing.
that. Yes.
So
He doesn't know
sometimes
that. Yeah.
I would fake bailing and then jam. I'd jam hard. I'd bail and be over the top.
Help
So
them
that was
understand what you're saying to them. Case, in other
Okay.
words, when you said, I was thinking, because that's the other thing. Once you get saved, don't turn off your mind. You'd be surprised how many believers don't think. It's crazy. Somebody came with counselor and they said, my husband said he gonna just cut my head off if I come back to that house. What should I do? Do you want your head? You'll be surprised how many people get saved, man, and all of a sudden, it's crazy. It's like you lose your mind. So what I'm saying is, you have to. He's a believer. He's born again, has God's Spirit in him. But guess what we also had to do? Right here. Please describe it to him.
in the cornerback world, because I didn't have the physical attributes that someone like Aeneas had, I'd always go into the game to the week saying I have to know who I am and who my opponent is.
Please say that again.
Know who you are and who your opponent is.
Know how long you can be around a honey. In other words, know who you are and don't be self-deceived. Some of you singles, well, I can just go, let's go to a movie at my house. We're not going to do anything. You self-deceived. You may get that you may get away with it about 5 times, about that 6th, and something come on in that movie and get everything going. Somebody say, no more self-deception. Come on, guys.
No more self-deception.
Yeah, y'all acting like y'all never heard of this kind of stuff. Amen. It's kind of like in football. I told you guys this. In football, they don't do it anymore. I don't see it anymore. We used to pat each other on the back, on the butt for a good play. I don't see the guys doing it anymore. And I told you guys, there's only one caveat to that. After 1,002, your hand had to be off.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
No, true story.
Exactly.
So he said he had to know what? Who he was. Even after you get saved, it'd be a good idea for you to know what's in your family lineage.
Correct.
Spiritually. You go to a doctor, you got high blood pressure, they're going to ask you questions about who? Your family lineage. Spiritually, the same way. Pay attention to all the depravity that's coming through your family. And don't you think, because you saved, it won't try to come on you. But you got to know about it, so put some boundaries around you. Go on.
Amen. So before I played in the game, I knew they like to run deep routes, obviously. Fast, slow, you know what's going to happen. But what I wanted to do initially in the game, we played a lot of two-high defenses where you have 2 safeties behind you and the corners will roll up. So I took that opportunity to try to beat him up.
Be physical with him.
Real physical with him.
Because I've never seen anybody run a sub 10-second 100 with somebody in their lane. But go on.
Exactly.
Some of y'all missed that, but go on.
So my thing was, let me use the defense and the disguises we have to help me intimidate him initially. So when he thinks I'm in jam and we're playing cover 1, I'm going to use a bail technique. I'm just going to pretend like I'm going to stay there, flash my hands, and then run and stay on top of him. The thing about that, though, I have to stay on top of him and stay in between his body. So I don't want to give him a lane where he can still run by me.
Right.
I want him to have to run around me. So that was just the way I approached the week, understanding that, Gill, you're slower, but you can still guard this guy. You have more, I would say, just about as much quickness as he has, but I didn't have the flat-out speed. I'd get to my 4.6 in one step. I'd get there fast. Or maybe he got to his 4.2 in 3 or 4 yards. So for a time, I was able to stay there. I just had to know when to stop the fight and stay over the top, knowing who I am and who he is. And like Pastor Aeneas said, it's the same way in my walk with God. I know what's been happening in our lineage, the Byrd family. I know where I've come from, man, pornography in my background, in college. I know there's places I can't go, I will not go. And you can talk about me all you want to. But I know I'm not here to please you. There's so many things we talked about tonight. It's all about pleasing God. I just love doers this year for the last 2 months, doers of the word and not merely hearers who delude themselves. Just can't tell you, man. The last 2 years have been really hard in my relationship as a husband. And this is because my wife's mom went through an illness. I got out of coaching. God had called me to get out of coaching to be with my wife. Get out of coaching, don't sign a new deal, to be the assistant head coach with Lovie Smith at the University of Illinois. Probably now I could have been with the Houston Texans with him. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's all in the physical. God called me and my wife to be together. We're married 38 years. We said, no, we've got to be together. You've got to stop coaching. God has given us a peace about that. We've got to move in that direction. Well, what's going to happen when you stop coaching, everybody said? You pass up all the money. I don't know. God has called us to take this first step.
Right.
He'll show us what's next.
Right.
He'll show us what's next.
Now, Gill, I want to ask something. If Gill had ignored that because he had tried to reason this and then gone out to be assistant coach with Coach Lovie, he would have been walking in self-deception because it would have been just a matter of time before, as they said, without cursing, before the stuff hit the fan. Because when you're outside the will of God, it's like you're running against the wind. And you wonder why you're struggling. It's because you possibly headed in the wrong direction. The other thing, Gill, I wanted to add is when I see Gill, I hear about Gill, and God moved on my heart to come to you after he shut Randall Hill down, by the way. Literally shut him down. Randall was quiet the whole week. I say, Randall, how that 4'6" guy doing? Yeah, he didn't want to laugh at that. So after the game, I need everybody to shake somebody because I don't want you to miss this. Look at somebody right now and tell them, wake up. Right now. We out of here. I need you to wake up on this. So shake them right now. Matter of fact, hit one of them across the head. And right now, okay? Just don't tell them I told you to do it. Who is one of the highest candidates for deception? Those who continue to try to do life on their own. We have these life groups. If you married, man, get around people who like their spouse. You want to be a great cornerback? Befriend one. After the game, I don't know if we beat y'all or y'all beat us. It doesn't even matter. After the game, I come and say hello to you, introduce myself, tell you Coach Bobby Jackson, or maybe Coach Bobby introduced us, and I say to you, can I have your phone number? Tell them what you were thinking.
Well, first of all, he says Mr. Byrd. So I'm looking at this player, my peer saying Mr. Byrd. It might have been 6 years in the league.
Exactly. Now we get it.
Yeah, I'm trying to add those numbers up.
I want to really hit this heavy now because some of you are slipping on this one. You're consistently doing life by yourself, consistently by yourself, self-deceive. And when you don't have somebody around you that sees the real you, that love you enough to tell you the truth as to what they see, and many of us don't because very few people you will meet will tell you got stuff in your teeth. And I'm talking about in the church. They'll have people see you literally in the church and won't say nothing. It's the craziest thing, man. If any place, you can't do that anywhere else and want to be successful. So I go to him, humility, Jesus, man.
Amen.
So the disciples, Jesus walking, disciples back here, he hear them fussing. He said, he let them get in a private place. He said, what y'all talking about back there? What are y'all fussing on the road back there? And they were talking about who's the greatest. Who's going to be great? They all messed up. Who's going to be great? Can you imagine these all disciples talking, who's going to be great? I'm going to be great. I'm going to be with him and all of that. And you know what he did? Come here, young man. This is what he did. He called the child to him. And he looked at him as I'm looking at you, because some of you all haven't flipped in your mind yet. And looked at his disciples and said, unless you come like this child, you'll never get into the kingdom of heaven. And we got too many men up here, and you won't become a child. What did he do? He didn't ask me a bunch of questions. It wasn't even about him being great. He just obeyed what I asked him to do. And that's what God is calling us to do. And in order for you to do it, it takes humility. And humility is seen through reach. Thank you. I wish I had some cash. I'll give him some cash. Thank you.
Amen.
So when I come to Gill, I say, Mr. Byrd, take it from there.
He asked for my number and says, can I come out, work out with you? And I'm amazed. That
Tell him why you're amazed.
A young, athletic, talented individual like Aeneas, and you follow other guys in the league, you know what young guys are coming through and what they're doing, would come up to me and would humble himself and ask, is there a way we can get together during the off season? And our styles of play are different. But like I tell my kids, it's get advice. It's like a big steak. You chew on it, whatever's bone, you spit it out. It's not for you.
Right.
But there's going to be some meat on it that you can learn and grow from. And so Aeneas said, I'll call you. I was like, yeah, all right, okay. He's going to call. That's us athlete. That's athlete talk. Hey, man, I'll call you later. Got my number. He did call me. Came to San Diego. I was just blown away from the first day he was there. But I don't think you know the extent on which you were teaching me. Because of your humility in asking questions and asking for help. During that time, there was a lot of guys, the Ronnie Lotts of the world, the Rod Woodsons of the world, guys back in the day. We didn't work out and reach out to guys like that. Everything was, you're my competition.
Right.
And I want to be the best. So let me get into my groove over here and keep it to myself.
Right.
And so you really helped me to understand that, not just on the field, but off the field. And then the year after, I think Tracy came. Auntie Tracy came. Uncle Aeneas and Auntie Tracy to me. Please forgive me, but that's family. And just the time we had in being open and speaking and sharing from our hearts made a difference in Marilyn's life and in my life as well. So it works both ways.
Right.
God is working on both lives when something like that happens.
And just so you know, one of the first things this man asked me, I had never thought about. That's why mentorship is so powerful. Mr. Gill asked me, what's your philosophy as a cornerback? You remember that?
I remember asking the question.
What's your philosophy? I'm like, philosophy? What are you talking about? You're talking about cornerback, man. I'm trying to keep the man from beating me. I'm trying not to get mossed.
Right.
What are you talking about? What's my philosophy? What kind of psychological class? What's happening here? What's my philosophy? And I said, don't get beat.
Right.
And you said?
And I'm going to try to quote it the same way. I believe it's surrounded. I don't have to guard him.
Right.
He's got to beat me.
Now, that sounds like the same thing. It changed my game. That's why mentorship's so important, because they teach you the nuances. I can go get a video and watch cornerbacks play. It's just like the Bible. You can go read the Bible, but if you don't know the Holy Spirit, you won't see the nuances. What did God mean by that? Why did he say that? What was the purpose? What's God's heart behind that? Otherwise, I'll rigidly and religiously go do it and not get the benefit because I didn't understand the nuances. When that man told me that, okay, coach, all right. And then he asked me, how many PBUs you had?
Yeah.
Pass breakups.
Pass breakups.
Instead of interception, knock the pass down. That's what he asked me. And he said, let me go back to the philosophy change, because you gave an example. When he said they got to beat me,
Right.
that changed my whole perspective. Now, you're talking about a guy who tied the national record his senior year in college with 11 interceptions. You're talking about somebody that has interceptions, but I don't care. I didn't tell him none of that. So a mentor is not for you to go tell him everything you're doing. A mentor is somebody you be quiet and listen. And a mentor is not somebody that gives you advice. It's somebody's advice you follow. A mentor, credible success for others who've already done well what you're trying to do. Your own experience, some of y'all doing your own thing. I'm going to do it my way. Your own experience is the slowest and most expensive way to learn. It is so much cheaper to learn from the lessons that somebody else paid for. Somebody say amen to this.
Amen.
Gill said to me, he says, they got to beat me. And then you gave an example. He said, you see these guys running, some of y'all, you see the cornerback running next to the receiver? And he running, and you yelling at the TV, do what? Turn around. How many guys you see, all they got to do is just turn around. I see this every week in a professional, in the NFL. All this guy got to do is turn around. Why is he not turning around? Because he's been taught all his life, don't get beat. And when you play the game like that, all you worrying about is covering this guy. You're not worrying about making plays. And that's what changed the game. That's what changed the game. And not only did it change the game, he sat down and taught me how to study film. I didn't know how to study film. He told me something crazy. He said, in man-to-man coverage, he said, Aeneas, you can line up at 7 yards and you can read the quarterback. I said, no, we can only read the quarterback at a 3-step drop. And he said, no, you can see it all the way back to 5. You can see play action. Do you know what he taught me? It was able to make the routes predictable. It was almost like Tom Brady. Tom Brady may never quit.
Yeah.
That dude may never quit. You can't hit him. And he said, why would I quit when I know the answers to the test?
Right.
It's just like being believers right now. There's some tests you should be passing now. And we fail in some of the same tests. So this man teach me this. The other thing, I had 18 PBUs, and by the way, my first contract, they paid me over $1,000 for every pass breakup. And what did you tell me?
I said, well, you want to lead the league in PBUs? Or if you just catch half of those.
Right.
If you just catch half of those 18, you have 9 interceptions. You lead the league 3 out of 4 years. Every year, you'll lead the league. Just turning those breakups into catches.
And then he helps expand my vision. That's what mentors do. Literally, instead of just seeing a receiver, he taught me how to see the whole field. There are people here right now who come to this church on a regular basis. God has called them to pastor. Do you know they very seldom come ask me any questions? And not that I know everything. Because I promise you, just as I had Brother Gill in football, I have pastor mentors right now. Same thing. Mm-hmm. Same thing. I've already paid for it. I don't want to pay for these mistakes anymore. It would have been self-deception. And by the way, true story. The next season, I led the league in interceptions. I made All-Pro, and I made a Pro Bowl. But it started at the feet of this man. And not only did he model on the field, but he and Marilyn Byrd modeled to my wife Tracy and I how to live a life loving each other in this bubble called the NFL world. And I wouldn't be standing here today without the example you and your wife, along with the two boys, Gill and Jairus, little Gill and Jairus, shared on my life. I'm only saying all of this, and I went way too long to say it. Stop living life by yourself.
Amen.
Stop living life by yourself. Stop sitting here over and over not listening. When those guys were talking, I'm listening. I'm listening. Why? Because God is not wasting our time. This man talking right now, I'm listening. Because something he's saying, because the Spirit of God is working in all of us. So something he may say to somebody, even a child, and you'll get it and listen. Something I may say, even a child. I didn't put a bunch of scriptures up there. Why? We've lived in it. A bunch of people can quote it. But are you living it? Because when you live it, you have a different way of teaching it. You follow me? And I tell you, I stand up here and tell you my flaws too. That's the thing I love. Because when you're able to confess your faults, you don't make people disillusioned. This is a fight. This is a war. And the one thing I found, last thing I'll tell you, you'll win if you just don't quit. You'll win if you what? Just don't quit. I promise you, you'll win. He says, those that endure to the end. Some of us quit when it gets tough. I just got something exposed in my life that I needed to change. And I'm so glad God loved me enough to show it to me and gave me the heart to change. You know God's remedy for those who willfully remain in self-deception? He allows them to go even deeper into it. But those that will humble themselves and say, God, I need help, He will come to you immediately, not fault finding, not pointing the finger, but grabbing your hand to lift you up and take you out of it.